guys, so this is going to be kind of a different video. This is going to be informative for once. I haven't done an informative video for a while. I have my whiteboard because I am in love with whiteboards. And yeah, I really wanted to talk about what I call the evolution of training philosophies. I definitely can relate this to myself, and I feel like a lot of other people can relate to this too, because it's kind of the cycle that most people hopefully go through to see what I would call the best results possible. Again, this is going to be predominantly towards like bodybuilding and powerlifting, but you can kind of apply this to anything. This really can apply to nutrition or even things even further than that. I'm just kind of using the catalyst that I am most familiar with of bodybuilding and powerlifting to make sense of this. But I think balance is something that you can try to maintain and get to a place with almost every aspect of your life. So again, this is just kind of one analogy that I'm going to kind of use. Hopefully you guys can find this useful, and I won't even say this is going to be a short video because I'm assuming it's not going to be. But hopefully you guys can see this pretty well. I think I have this set up so you guys can see these words for the most part. I'll get a little bit closer, you don't need to see me. But yeah, this is called the evolution of training, if I spelled that right. And really what kind of inspired this is when I was studying biochemistry earlier this morning. We were looking at like the Krebs cycle and stuff like that. And I wanted to, this kind of thought has been in my head for a while about this whole thing I'm going to be talking about. So if you're in college, if you've heard of the Krebs cycle, this may be like semi-familiar. So it's pretty damn nerdy of me to do this. But up here, this is where you want to start at. So think about you're entering the cycle. This is the way I can kind of think of this. Most people will start their journey with bodybuilding, powerlifting, something that I would call totally bro, where you just copy Jay Cutler's meal plan, you copy Ronnie Coleman's exercise plan. That's what you do. Like, you don't research anything, you don't do anything else. Like, this is what the pros do. This is what I need to be doing. And so you start on that kind of journey, and anyone who's trained like that for a while will understand that you'll get results. I'm not going to say you won't get results with like a chest day and an arm day and chicken and brown rice 6 times a day. You definitely will get results, assuming what you were doing before was pretty much nothing, right? Some stimulus, some eating, high protein diet. Those things are going to result in building your muscle tissue, or maybe if you're just eating a whole bunch of crap and you stop eating sugar like the pros do, maybe you'll lose weight. Those kind of really easy habits that people can start with will definitely get results. But then you kind of continue down that route. There's not like a real timetable here. It can really vary from like months to years to get to each of these points. But then I have down here, HMM question mark, because you start to plateau. You start to hear, why are these guys eating Pop-Tarts? Why are you start to hear all these other things with different exercises, and people have upper and lower days and powerlifting and different kind of training philosophy. So you start to think, am I doing things correctly? You start to research more and things like that. This is definitely a place that I've been with probably when I was 19, 20-ish, where I kind of got away. I was not really happy seeing the results I was seeing with the chest day and eating 8 times a day. It wasn't working out for my lifestyle and that stuff. So then people kind of drag on to the totally science part of the cycle. And this is where, again, it's not really good to be totally bro or totally science, but it's kind of the point of this whole thing, where you don't do it unless it's in a study. Research says that 0.82 grams per pound of body weight is sufficient for building muscle, because one research study said that and no study has said it. So I don't care that someone else eats 1.25. Study says 1.82. That's what I'm going to do. I don't care. I don't care if I'm losing muscle. I'm totally science. EMG research says that if my toes are pointed out, just 10 degrees has the greatest glute activation. So if the research says it's greatest at 10%, or is it 10% flare, 10 degree flare, even if I feel it at 30% or a 30 degree flare, I'm going to go with this research. You kind of have that extremist type attitude where you kind of forget that, yeah, research is important. Or sorry, you don't forget that. You understand that research is important, but you forget the fact that it really doesn't matter unless you're seeing results. So you can know all the science in the world, you can know all the research in the world, But if it doesn't apply to you or that specific person in practice, you can just throw it out the window, because at the end of the day, all that really matters is research, or is results, I'm sorry. But like I said, just like when you're a totally bro, you'll notice that when you kind of go the totally science route, you'll get, probably further results than you would with the totally bro route. Or you'll further enhance your physique or whatever your goal is. Example of this would be like switching to flexible dieting. Understand you don't have to eat 300 grams of protein per day, so you can have some more carbohydrates to fuel your performance. Or maybe instead of training chest once a week, you train upper body 2 or 3 times a week, and you'll probably see your strength gains go up pretty quickly, your muscle tissue a little bit faster, and things like that. Those are the results you'll get. So I'm not going to say that totally science is not going to get you results. But then again, then you get to a point, just like you did when you're totally bro, that you just kind of think like, man, but this power lifter, like, he deadlifts like 4 times a week, and science says CNS, you can't recover that fast, and I don't know, and man, I don't know if I should do that. And you start reading this book and that book, you start to think like, okay, maybe the totally science route, just like the totally bro route, isn't the best way to go. And this is kind of like where I've been the past, probably 3 to 6 months. Is I definitely was on this totally science, I'll say bandwagon, but I was kind of on this stage for a long time where it was, train 2 times a week, make sure you have 48 hours in between, meal timing is totally irrelevant, all of those things that a lot of people will, I won't say lie about, but they miss a lot of the details that are important. So this is kind of where I have been thinking about, okay, what is probably the best way to go about this as far as training goes. And that's kind of where I am now, and kind of where I have circled up here is a mixture of both science and application. And what I mean by this is whichever way you want to start, I would say probably start with a research foundation of like, okay, somewhere between 0.75 grams per pound of body weight protein and 1.5 is probably going to be good for you trying to build muscle, maintain muscle. Research, I would say, concludes that for the most part. But to see like probably what's ideal for you or your client or whoever you're consulting for, you need to make sure that you're applying this. So maybe you're at 1 gram per pound of body weight and you're just, maybe you're still hungry, so maybe you up it to 1.25. Even if most of the research doesn't support that and the client feels better, who are you to say that you should back that back down, right? Like, leave it at 1.25. It's still in kind of the area of what makes sense from a research-based kind of practice. You want to think about that. Same thing with like training routines. If a lot of people will say, oh, you can't recover, your CNS can't recover from squatting 3 or 4 times a week, it doesn't make sense. If someone switches to squatting 3 or 4 times a week and they keep their health, they're getting stronger, their legs are getting bigger, again, how are you going to say that because you haven't seen that in the study that you shouldn't be doing this, right? So that's kind of where I'm telling most people they need to find themselves with their recommendations and with their own training, is that start with the research base. So things that I've talked about for, I would say, years now, for a long time, probably training things, if your end goal is muscle hypertrophy, I would definitely say training things at least twice a week. I'm talking about big muscle groups like chest, back, legs, quads, hamstrings, at least twice a week. You don't need a ton of volume. You don't need like 20 or 30 sets per muscle group. Stick to majority of compound exercises. Really try to get stronger, progressive overload, squat, bench, deadlift, or some variation of those 3. Make sure you're getting some metabolic stress, if you want to call it that, so some higher rep work, your curls, your press downs, your calf raises, leg extensions, high rep leg extensions, stuff like that. Make sure you're getting, I would say, a decent amount of cardio in, but something cardiovascular in nature, whether you just like to run for 30 minutes, do like a Metcon, like barbell complexes, whatever it is. Those things can even kind of result into being a little bit more, have more aerobic capacity, anaerobic capacity, could help your weight training. So these are all things that not only make sense from the science perspective, but you'll see some of the best athletes in the world doing this, right? You see some of the best athletes in the world, the best powerlifters in the world doing farmer's walks, anaerobic work. you see them, you know, a lot of guys Mike Teixeira will squat multiple times a week, bench multiple times a week. So these guys, you see the top people in the world at their craft. What they're doing makes sense from a science perspective, but I guess the important thing I'm trying to get through here is they're not limiting themselves to what they see in the study. They're not limiting themselves to what other people have told them. You know, they start West Side ideology. They start with their 5-3-1 or whatever they're doing, but they're not afraid to take the next step and, you know, go higher frequency, or take the next step and stop doing box squats. You know, so that's what I'm really trying to encourage with myself, I guess, with my clients, and also anyone who follows me, is to get to a place here where you're not so much on one side of the pendulum, where you're totally bro and you ignore the science, or you're totally science, you ignore anything that I wouldn't say is bro-ish, but anything that maybe has given you a clear sign that you should be doing this, but just because you haven't seen it in a study, or someone that you think is smarter than you doesn't think that it's a good idea, right? A great example for me is like, again, I will tell 99% of people that having an intra workout shake for a weight trainer who's predominantly trying to just get stronger without really any anaerobic, you know, like 30-second sets, you know, stuff like that, where you're really getting fatigued, probably isn't that important. You know, having Gatorade and whey, I couldn't really see any studies, I couldn't show you any studies that's going to help me during my workout, but nearly every single time I have I'm a little off, a little sluggish during my workout, I'm not drinking anything during I'm training. You know, you can call that a placebo effect, you can call that whatever, but again, I'm not going to stop doing something that I believe I'm clearly getting results from. So again, this is not saying that just because you think it provides you with a specific result, you can ignore all research. What I am saying is you cannot ignore results, right? Maybe you can wonder why it doesn't work and try to figure it out. But at the end of the day, if you're strictly limiting yourself to what you see in the study, you're always going to be behind a little bit. And yeah, that's just kind of my message, guys. So again, find balance with your training routine. Don't just go and copy Rich Fronings's routine if you're a CrossFitter, or Brandon Lilly's routine if you're a powerlifter. But at the same time, don't get so bogged down in the science that you're afraid to take any steps outside of the box to get your best results. So hopefully you guys like this video. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know where you guys kind of find yourself on this pendulum, or how long it took you to kind of get through this little cycle. Like, I would hope most people can find themselves at if they want to get the best results. And yeah, that's it. Subscribe to the channel if you're new here. Give me a like. Go check out my website, gregferrisfitness.com. And that's it, guys. Take care.